Welcome back, everybody, to the Cognitive Awareness with a Touch of God podcast. Today's episode 20. It's called The 7 Most Powerful Steps of Self-Healing. But before we get started, folks, if you could do me a favor, go ahead and share this podcast, like it, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and feel free to add comments to any of the podcasts. The more comments that are in there, the more it might be able to help other folks. Now, back to the 7 most powerful steps of self-healing. Since everyone is different, it's almost impossible to make this kind of a claim, yet here I am doing just that. Is there really just 7 steps, or are there 10? Or maybe there's 5? Well, looking back at all the things I've learned through my 20 plus years of healing, as well as all the countless people that I've helped guide through their healing using these steps, it's kind of safe to say I could use any of those numbers of steps and be correct. I mean, maybe there is 7, maybe there is 10, maybe there's 5. But for the most part, this is the 7 most powerful steps that I believe in my heart are the most critical pieces to anyone's healing process skill set. So right now I'm going to just run down the list of the steps. They're going to be in a backwards order. So in other words, number 7 first, and then I'll end at number 1, which of course number 1 being the most important piece. So number 7 would be to recognize. Number 6 would be the acceptance. Number 5 is priorities. Number 4 is expectations. Number 3 is boundaries. Number 2 is beliefs. And number 1 would be some form of higher power or connecting with God. So we're going to go into detail of each of those 7 steps, starting with number 7, working our way down to number 1. So folks, step number 7, we'll start there, and it's called recognize. As with any type of healing that we go through, we have to start somewhere. And recognizing is the key to starting any form of healing path. It's just like admitting that we essentially have an issue or a problem or some unhealthy thought or unhealthy behaviors. We have to first recognize that there is something that we have to work on, that there's something that's off within us. Then we have to recognize what it might take in order to heal from that thing. And then after that, we might actually recognize that there's something deeper than that initial issue that's causing our pain. And then eventually down the road, we'll start recognizing our slip-ups, not just when they happen, but before they happen. And we might be able to recognize our dysfunctional patterns of behavior behind those slip-ups. And the process goes on until we actually heal what is the core issue of our pain. Now, also, in our desire to heal whatever issue is causing us pain, we have to recognize that it may take some deep inner soul work in order to find the core reason or reasons behind that issue we have in order to completely heal from it. Through the entirety of the healing process, from start to finish, we're going to be recognizing countless unhealthy things that are actually driving our dark times and keeping us in our dysfunction. But we're also going to be recognizing the solutions for each of them as well. You know, we have to be recognizing where the patterns of unhealthy behavior are, recognizing we want to heal from it, recognize what it might take to heal from it, recognizing each thought pattern or behavior pattern that takes us down the dark tunnel, recognize the healing steps it'll take to heal from each pattern, or recognizing when we slip up that we can and will start over, and that it's okay. We're going to recognize that when we do start over, we'll be able to recognize the slip up before it occurs next time. It's kind of like training ourselves. When we slip up, if we see that pattern coming again the next time, we will know that we slipped up the last time, and so we can prevent it from happening again. We can also recognize the successes along the healing journey that we have. Recognize how we're changing into a healthier being. Recognize the good that we can and will do for others and for ourselves during and after our healing process. Recognize, folks, it's the beginning. Step number 6 is acceptance. Really simple. If we're just recognizing that we have unhealthiness in our lives, we now must accept that it is true. Then we have to accept the truth about it, accepting the path ahead of us for our healing, accept the time and effort it's going to take to heal, accept our responsibility in the fact that everything we struggle with is a creation of the choices we've made in our lives, and it's not a result of anything outside of us. It's not caused by somebody else. Somebody might have done something, but it's how we behaved, how we chose to act and think and feel that made the difference and then created the choices that we've made. Also, we've got to accept the changes that will come from our healing, which may also mean that when we change, big things are going to happen. And sometimes when we're going through this healing, we're going to have to see that there's some things that we can't change. So we have to do this thing called change what we can and accept the things that we cannot change. Also accepting the new life that we'll be creating from our healing. We're going to be different people. So we want to be able to accept the changes and the new breath of fresh air that we may be getting from it. Or maybe there's going to be new struggles because as we change, people change around us. Things change. We move. We do different things. We go to different places. We have new friends. We lose old friends. We even might lose our family. So making sure that we know that when we do our healing, we are going to accept all the newness that comes with it. And of course, accepting successes of each step along the way. So every step that we take in the healing process needs to be celebrated as a success, not as, oh my God, I've got so many more steps to do. It's like, man, just let's own each step of success. Let's own it and say, man, I just accomplished that. I didn't think I could even get that far. Let me celebrate for a moment and let me just kind of congratulate myself. Celebrating your successes. Now, step number 5 is called priorities. Priorities are those things that you value most in your life today. It's also things that you valued in your past. I know there's a chance you haven't even considered having a priority list yet, or maybe even ever, but that's exactly the point of this step. So, what is the most important thing that you want from today? That should be a priority list item. What are the things you care about the most today? And if you had to come up with 10 things for your priority list, is it something you could do right now? Do you desire to have darkness follow you each day? Do you need to get high every day or drink every day? Do you need to curse all the time? Do you need to yell, scream, kick, punch stuff? Do you need to be angry? Where do you actually place your own happiness in your top 10 priority list? See, creating a top 10 priority list is critical to see just where you are in your thoughts each day, or each week, or each month, or just even each moment. How you feel about yourself and those around you is part of a priority list. It allows you to see that. It also allows you to see how you feel about your job, or your spouse, your friends, your BFF, your car, your stuff, your toys. Or what do you think is more important to you every day? Is it your happiness, or is it getting money to pay your bills? Creating a top 10 list for priorities of how things were when you were 5 years ago can also be used as a comparison tool. If you were to create a list of what your top 10 priority list is today, and then turn the clock back 5 years, go through your life 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and just kind of think to yourself, what would have been my priority list then? That would allow you to create both and then compare where you've gone since then. Now, maybe 10 years ago you were in a happier place, or maybe 10 years ago you were in the darkest of dark, and today you're doing okay. So it'd be good to be able to see the progress or the transitions you've gone through. Maybe create a list of priorities from back in the day when you were a child. You know, what are the things that were most important to you as a child, like playing with toys, eating, going potty, hanging out with your friends, riding your bicycle, you know? What are those priorities? And see how simple life was and how happy you actually were in that life. Now also, creating a priority list of what you hope to accomplish after your healing is done, or even through your healing. So as you're going through your healing, you can constantly update your priority list to make sure that you're on track. But folks, the truth is that no matter how you slice it, the key piece to a priority list is real simple. It's honesty. You'll never gain anything from a priority list if you aren't honest with yourself when you create it. If you write down the things that you should have on your priority list versus the things that actually are on your priority list, you're not going to gain anything. You need to see where you really are compared to where you want to be or where you've been. And then you need to evaluate and see if it's balanced with your desires of being happy, healthy, peaceful, joyful, or any of that. I actually have another podcast called Cognitive Awareness with a Touch of God, and episode 10 actually covers the priority list. So feel free to give that a listen as well. Now moving on, step number 4. Step 4 is called expectations. One of the most devastating processes that we struggle with in our lives, in just about every situation that comes up, will involve an expectation that was either set too high or too low. We expected somebody to do something and they didn't. We expected ourselves to do something and we didn't. We expected this thing to be a certain way. We expected the traffic light to switch. We expect our parents, our spouse, or children to love us unconditionally and forever. Does that always happen? We'd like to believe so. We expect our employers to respect us and treat us with kindness and pay us according to our skills. Does that happen? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. We expect our vehicles to always work. We expect our best friends to always be available for us 24/7. We expect our hearts not to be broken again. We expect our relationships to not be so dramatic or caustic or dangerous or unhealthy. We expect our healing to be quick and painless. We expect our mother or father to die when they're in their 90s, not when they're in their 40s or 50s, or even younger. We expect that darn traffic light to be yellow for just a tad longer, so we don't run a red light. We expect our bank accounts to always have enough, and for our hometown to always remain the same. We don't want to see changes, so we have our expectations set to be happy in a certain way. We expect our social media posts to be read and fully understood by everybody that's reading it exactly the way you intended it to be read and understood, always. And how often does that really happen? We also expect things like our churches, our synagogues, or our spiritual worship places to be perfect and never have flaws. We just keep expecting stuff, folks, and we don't put it in the proper context, and we don't properly set our expectations so that we won't be constantly disappointed with ourselves or others. So you already understand where this is going. We have a hard time setting our expectations appropriately for the things going on in our lives, especially when we're struggling. But recognize this, guys. Even when we are in a happy place, we may be dragged down by having our expectations set way too high, or maybe even way too low. So I want you to hear this. This is kind of like a review of my expectations through my life. I expected my second marriage to last a lifetime. 6 years was it. I expected my drinking to never be a problem for me. It was my biggest problem. I expected my dad to be there when I was a child, and he rarely was. I expected my first go at sex to be way better than what it was, and that was just my bad. That's just what happens. I expected I would retire from the Navy. I did 6 years, got my honorable discharge, but I didn't go through retirement. I expected to never crash my car, and I ended up launching myself a good 100 feet or so down an embankment off a highway about 25 years ago. Totaled my car. I expected to never need surgery. Now I have 2 metal hips and I have a rebuilt shoulder. I expected my diet to always have meat in it. I mean, truthfully, just about most of my adult life, for at least the first 35 years, I figured meat was going to be a major part. Now I'm pretty much like I call it an 80-20 vegetarian. That means I'm eating 80% of my foods are going to be vegetarian type, and the other 20 are going to be whatever the heck I want. I expected to be hiking Sedona to the day I die. We'll see where that goes. I expected that I would not find God. For a large portion of my life, I believed deep inside me that I was not going to find God. But in the last 5 to 6 years, I've become more connected with God than ever before, and it's astronomical how it's changed my life. All I'm getting at is that my expectations were set too high for the reality I was in for most of my life. Sometimes we set an expectation of being clean and sober the first day into a rehab. Or we set an expectation of being honest with our boyfriend and girlfriend, knowing full well that we're already thinking we're not going to be with them for too long. And sometimes we expect our friends to understand how we feel even if we don't tell them the truth. Or we expect the police not to pull us over when we go out drinking. Or, more dark, we expect not to kill someone while driving under the influence. That's a pretty ugly one, but that is also a very real situation. Sometimes we expect our thoughts to be more balanced, and sometimes we expect our depression to magically end. Setting proper expectations for balance is critical. So now I approach things in a more balanced way because I've learned to set my expectations for life, for anything in life, to be where it needs to be for my current state. I can't expect to pay my bills if I don't work. Since I'm recovering from a shoulder surgery and all I was doing was outdoor stuff, I have to adapt to this new change. I have to figure out what am I going to do next. This healing isn't going to be done in a week or two. It might be up to 6 months. So I have to figure that out. So I don't expect anything other than the reality. I will not expect anything more out of people than what I know them to be able to give. And if I don't know what they can give, then I'm not going to expect them to be able to give more than they can. I'm just going to expect them to do the best they can at the time that I'm needing something from them. I can't expect to live till a certain age, well, mostly because in the last 2 years I've been hit by a car twice while walking. So I can't control if somebody runs me over with a car, unless for some reason I was in the middle of the road. But anyway, you get that idea. I'm very accepting of the things that are out of my control. So I know that at any point in time could be my last day. So I'm learning to accept it, but I'm also learning to expect nothing but living the day. I don't expect certain people to behave a certain way when all signs have pointed to them being in a struggle on their own, being in a dysfunctional situation. They aren't healing yet. They haven't even started healing. So if you don't see people healing, you can't expect them to be behaving different. The same goes for yourself. I also don't expect my shoulder surgery will heal in the next 3 weeks, especially when they told me it may take up to 6 months. But I do expect to have as much patience as I need for the complete healing of my shoulder. So therefore, I'm adjusting and adapting my expectations to the truth behind my shoulder surgery. So it's important that you set your expectations according to the balanced life that you want to have. Step number 3 is called boundaries. So a boundary is kind of like setting a safety net for yourself. It's like applying laws that you desire not to break for yourself or for others, actually. It's also like having an adjustable limit to what you're going to do or what you desire others to do to you or for you. So a boundary can be useless if it's not applied with the intention and dedication coming from your heart and your desires to be safe. Something like saying to someone, I'll never talk to you again. Then again, tomorrow you talk to them anyway because you need to talk to them. Or you say to somebody, you're never going to throw stuff at me because I'm leaving you tomorrow. It's like, that's not a boundary. If you're saying you're going to be there today and not leaving till tomorrow, what kind of a boundary is saying you will never throw stuff at me? Or how about, I'm never going to go on social media ever again. Yet 1 week later, there you are. How about the struggle that a lot of us might have? I won't let my mom talk to me like that on the phone when we call once a week. And yet the next day you hear yourself saying, no, Mom, I'm not useless and I'm not worthless. You have no idea what you're talking about. It's like, if you don't want to let your mom talk to you a certain way, then if she starts, tell her you're hanging up and hang up. Now, a solid boundary can be incredibly empowering. A solid boundary is one that you're set, that you've made clear to other people, and that if they don't follow your boundaries, you have a consequence for them. Something like, I can't have you talk to me like that. I've had enough of your backstabbing and your lies. I think it's time to end our friendship. And the only way to lock that in is to delete them from your phone. Remove their emails, remove their texts, remove their connections with you. Do a burning ceremony for their pictures or their letters. Refuse to talk about them with people that you both know. Refuse to go to any place that you guys used to hang out together. Refuse to put yourself in a situation that your boundary gets broken. You could be reading all this political post-hatred on social media page. And there's a few people that you're friends with, and you keep telling them, you know what, I'm going to drop you if you keep going on the political hatred. And then all you have to do is unfriend them and block them. Problem solved. Boundary. Well, what if you tell yourself you're only going to hang out with like-minded people? Well, what do you think you need to do? You got to go to places that feel right. You have to watch like-minded TV shows or movies or videos and stuff. Listen to like-minded music, the things that you're trying to attain, the balance, the happiness level that you're trying to attain. Listen to music that's going to coincide with that, not some sort of death metal or killer cop raps or anything like that that's so darn negative. What if you decide that you don't want to eat any more fatty foods or high calories or high carbs? Well, don't go to fast food places. Don't eat carb foods. Don't do pastas. Be more selective and expect to pay a little more or maybe a lot more for the foods that you're going to change to. You got to have some balance there. You got to understand that if you really want to change your food habits, you're probably going to buy different stuff and you may have to pay a little more. But if you're dedicated to your health and well-being, then the price isn't going to matter. Do research on any other way that you can kind of hold true to your desires. Maybe seek assistance from others that you see on social media that think like you. Go to those Facebook groups that actually have a lot of people talking about similar things that you're excited about. I also have an episode from my Path to Recovery podcast detailing this process called Episode 10, Setting Boundaries. Okay, folks, now step 2, beliefs. Now, this one may be new for some of you. Beliefs are actually the things that are deep within our hearts that kind of dictate what we think, feel, say, and do. It kind of is the controlling center of our decision making. It's what creates our core values, those things we hold dearest to us, like our love for our family, friends, and our children, our belief that we're deserving of love and having great relationships, believing that we're deserving of great things, we're deserving of a great job that satisfies our heart and our wallet. We believe that we always tell the truth and that we're an honest person. So you get the idea, right? Beliefs. What you believe is what you're going to have as a core value, which is going to generate the thoughts that you have, and it's going to generate those emotions that come from those thoughts, and then it'll generate what you say. And then ultimately, it'll show in what you do every day. So if you're in a caustic situation or a dysfunctional situation, guess what your belief system's showing? That you probably don't believe a lot about yourself. You don't believe in yourself, so that bad things should always happen to you. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. Now, our beliefs are also the deepest level within us that any of us can go to find the root cause of the struggles that we're experiencing or the experiences that we've had in our life. If your belief is that you aren't worthy of anything, your thoughts, feelings, words, and actions are going to reflect exactly that. If you believe that you're incapable of having a good relationship, you're pretty much destined to have failed relationships until your belief changes. If you believe you can't do anything right, your actions are going to show that to others and to yourself. If you believe that your opinion doesn't matter, you're going to tend to hide from sharing your thoughts to anyone. Beliefs aren't things we can just throw around. We actually need to have deep conviction and dedication and a deep heartfelt desire to believe certain things. Otherwise, it's like setting those cruddy expectations or making a priority list without any honesty involved with it. You have to have the desire to be successful. And in order to change the way you're behaving in your life, you're going to have to start by reevaluating your belief system and what are the things that you believe in deeply. And when you want to change a belief, it'll kind of come with changes all around you. But if at the same time you know that this belief is going to be a good reflection of your truest heart and your intentions of your change, then the change is going to come with more ease than if you just kind of throw out a belief randomly and without any depth to it. So it's important that when you are looking to create a change in your belief system, this is a deep setup and a deep thing that's going to connect to your heart, not your mind. Also, changing a belief from being, not worthy to a divine worthiness. It's important that you actually, when you're trying to change out of a belief, that you have to create a new belief that's the opposite of the belief that was negative or dysfunctional. If you were always thinking you were not worthy, then what you need to do is replace it with understanding that you are worthy and that you've always been worthy. And that's kind of a hard thing to do, but that's part of the process. Now, you're most likely going to find friends, family, and maybe even employers watching you walk out the door with a giant smile on your face when you figure out your belief systems and when you start adjusting them. While at the same time, you might start creating new, healthier friends and maybe even new, healthier jobs with employers that are more apt to be kind to you and treat you with respect. Now, it's also possible you might be in the center of a deep healing process that gets you clean or sober, or both, all because you really know that you're believing in your worthiness and that you are deserving of a new life filled with happiness. I have another episode in the Path to Recovery podcast, episode 4, that is called What Are My Beliefs? And it's going to dig deep into the beliefs in like a 4-part series. Feel free to listen to that one as well. Now, here's the big one, folks. Step 1. A higher power, or God. Just about every recovery program or healing modality you'll ever encounter is going to tell you at some point in time that you're not going to be able to do it alone and that you have to seek out a higher power to assist you, because there's going to be a chance that you're not going to have somebody with you all the time, but you need to know that somebody will be with you all the time. And not that you're just using your recovery program as a resource, but that you're going to be wanting to find the source for assistance. And asking for a higher power to assist you in any healing is why I'm actually placing this as the number one step to do. Now, those other 6 steps that I've talked about prior to this one are important, but none of them can be accomplished unless you're actually starting to seek this higher level of source. Now, you can call it whatever you need to, but I'm going to always refer to it as God because that's the way it is for me. In order for us to achieve our greatest success in anything, we have to actually reach not just into our highest self, but to the one source above all others. Everything that we do or wish to do is always possible with God. So just think about it this way. The essence of God is the understanding of love, and only love. God is nothing else but love. If you apply the truest of love to every belief you have, and every thought you have, and every feeling you have, and every word that you speak, and then every action you do, then your result is going to be nothing but success. And it's going to be guided by love. So if you want to truly change and get out of your dysfunction and out of your dark night of the soul, then why not make the easy switch to a higher power? Now, we got to understand things don't get ugly when you're presenting or walking with that level of love for everything. When we believe we're lacking in love, we're going to receive the same. We're not going to be getting the love that we think we're deserving of. If we believe that we're walking in God's love, then we are going to receive the same. You'll start seeing people coming out of the woodwork that are just nice beings, happy beings, caring beings, and they share that love with you. Now, you got to ask yourself, do you have true faith that this human brain of yours, you know, the one that got you into this darkened mess in the first place, do you believe that brain can get you out of what it created? It was the creation of your dysfunction. Therefore, using that same brain that's dysfunctional, you can't fix your dysfunction with a dysfunctional brain. How do you want to take your walk into your healing? Do you want to ride on negativity? Or do you want to feel the energy of positivity and goodness and hope and faith and, just pure love? Do you want ugliness and darkness, or do you want to walk in the light? Do you want to feel the goodness within you and within others? Or do you want to harbor hate and discontent and just be miserable all the time? Bring in the highest power. Bring in the one true knowingness. Bring it to your healing and find that lifelong success and a forever love. Bring in that higher power, the source. All right, folks, thank you very much for listening to this podcast. The 7 most powerful steps of self-healing are right in front of you. If you can attain these, if you can take the time to work on each piece of this, each of these 7, and if you apply each of these 7 every day, your healing will not only be exponential, it'll be the easy way. You've heard that saying, you can have it the easy way or the hard way. Well, guys, if you apply these 7 most powerful steps, your self-healing will become the easy way. I appreciate your time and effort. I appreciate your love and your openness to be able to listen to this. I thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. God bless you all, and I hope to hear from you next time.